Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm hitting an upper body session, and I mainly want to talk about, training intensity, rep ranges, and overall just how you should be structuring your training throughout the week. So lately I've been slowly switching from the 6 to 8 rep range to like a 4 to 6 rep range. So for this shoulder press, I'm, going to be going 4 to 6 reps every single session. Pick a weight, say 115 or whatever it may be, that I could get 4 reps with, and I'm going to continue to do that weight until I get 6 reps. So one session I'll get 4, next session I'll get 5, maybe I'll get 5 again, then once I get 6, 115, then I'll move up to like 120. So I've been slowly switching from that. So far, I'm going to keep incline bench 6 to 8 because that's what feels good so far, but I feel like as I just continue to get stronger, heavier weight, I kind of want to just go 4 to 6 and just put as much tension as possible on the muscle while keeping my training intensity and tension on the muscle, just as good, if not better, because you're going to have to exert more force on the weight if it's heavier to get it up, so which means it's going to put more tension on the muscle, and that's true to a certain extent. I'm not one to train in the 1 to 3 rep range, that's like just powerlifting at that point. But I feel like, anything with that 1 to 3, I can't really get 1 to 3 like good ass reps in. I feel like just having 4 to 6, is just better because I'll be able to lift heavy ass weight, but also control it pretty well. So I feel like I was, from 8 to 10, then I went to 6 to 8 for a while. I'm starting to try and switch to 4 to 6, because as I get stronger, I'm going to keep, obviously it's not going to get to a point where I go to like 1 rep sets, of course. I'm probably going to chill at 4 to 6 for a very long time, just like I did 6 to 8. But so far, like, things like shoulder press are 4 to 6. All my compounds are on leg day are 4 to 6. So my hack squats, my RDLs, and my leg press. Leg press has been 4 to 6 for a while, I think. I don't like going high reps on leg press. I feel like that's just not beneficial, especially with a movement you could load incredibly heavy, like the leg press. But, things like, smaller movements, bicep curls, or lateral raises, those I think are better to go 6 to 8 rather than 4 to 6, especially lateral raises. You just can't really load it as heavy a movement like that, because the delts are relatively small muscle compared to something like your quads, so you want to kind of, when you're deciding on a rep range to do for a certain movement, you want to be taking into consideration, all right, how big is this muscle? How heavy can I really load it and still get, solid tension and get a solid set out of the weight you're doing. Something like quads, hamstrings, those are big muscles. So you're going to want to load it heavy, go to 4 to 6. Rather with something like, a lateral raise, you're going to want to go, I'd say 6 to 8 at least. I mean, you could probably benefit vastly from like 8 to 10 lighter weight focusing, especially if your delts are like a weak point. You want to be getting as much activation as possible to them, and then once it becomes a strong point, you want to just keep loading them heavier and heavier. Like for me, I used to always skip out on delts. Like I used to just, because I used to do bro split a while back, and what I would do is legs, and I would do chest and side delts, back and rear delts, arms and front delts. But I would always do, the main lift, like the chest, the back, the arms. And then I would check the pump, and I'd be like, I would, honestly, a lot of times I'd just run out of time, or, just be lazy and not do it. I was newer to training then. And my shoulders fell behind, safe to say. I realized that I started just going crazy on them, spamming the side laterals, the fucking shoulder press, front raises, rear delt flies, whatever it may be. I was just spamming them, really prioritizing them. And now, honestly, I can't really tell if they're a strong point in my physique or not. But they've definitely grown, and they're definitely not as weak as something like my arms. I feel like they jump out at you more than my arms do. My arms aren't really like, they don't have the thickness. Especially from like front view, looking straight at me. My arms look small as fuck. But like when I have them in like most muscular, they don't look too bad. But I definitely want them bigger. So even though I'm cutting, I'm going to be prioritizing them. Because honestly, I'm in the around 600. I'm trying to get like 625 calorie deficit, because that equals 1.25 pounds fat a week. But obviously I'm not going to get exactly that deficit every day, but I'm just using it as a general guideline, to lose a general amount of fat by like, 6 to 10 weeks, depending on how long I cut for. But that's not a crazy big deficit. I feel like once you get to like, it depends relative to your body weight, but for me, when I get to like a 750 calorie deficit or more, that is when, I start to, really just feel like absolute shit all the time. Lifting is dreadful. I'm not building any muscle, and like a 625, that's about the max I could go without, training quality suffering, without absolutely 100% blunting muscle growth. So I'm mostly going to just retain what muscle I have over the course of this cut. But, I'm eating 1,950 calories a day, training days, 1,550 on rest days. So, the amount of calories I'm eating relative to my activity, I'm still going to be building a slight amount of muscle. Because calories do not cause the growth stimulus. It's the training, but you need the energy to facilitate that growth. And so basically what everyone's saying with bulking's vaulted and just eat at maintenance is that you burn X amount of calories a day. So the amount of calories you burn, at rest, walking, training, digesting, and recovering from that training is the key part. In that 2,500 calorie maintenance, let's say, on a person, that accounts for the energy cost of fully recovering their muscles and growing them stronger. So adding, 1 to 200 calories, 300, 500, whatever it may be, on top of that, just doesn't make any sense. That's just going to go to fat, really, 100% of it, honestly. Because that 2,500 calorie maintenance, it already includes, it's not like 2,500 calorie maintenance doesn't include the recovery. And the recovery is an extra 200, 300 calories. It's already included, so there's no reason to go above maintenance, honestly, if you're already happy with how lean you are and you just want to get to building muscle. Just main gain, honestly. Because say a dude main gains for a year, and one guy, like, bulks for 6 months, and then, bulks for 8 months, cuts for 4, or bulks for 10, cuts for 2, whatever it may be. The guy who main gains is always going to have gained more muscle. Because the guy bulking, he's really going to gain the same amount of muscle as the guy at maintenance, honestly. Because that surplus that the bulking guy is doing, it's not doing anything. It's just extra calories to eat calories, So I feel like I kind of wanted to just clear that up, because I see a lot of stuff on TikTok and just people posting shit like saying bulking's vaulted when they're not really explaining it. So, people, honestly, when I first saw that shit, I was like, what the fuck? How does that work? I thought, you need a surplus to grow. But turns out it is not true. The calories, it's not like people often think of the calories as what goes to building the muscle and building the muscle up, when it's really just energy needed to facilitate the process of muscle growth, So, the protein is the building blocks that actually build the muscle. You need the fuel, let's think of it. Think of the calories as the construction workers, and the protein as the building blocks. So the construction workers are what really fuel like they make the shit happen. They're like the energy. They're the ones who build the fucking house. But let's think. When you choose your building blocks, would you rather have brick? Say brick is protein, carbs, or no? Well, no. If you eat all carbs and fats, that would like be building the house with fucking, like straw. Whatever you call it, like just sticks and stones, random shit. Weak materials. Brick would be like building with protein, but obviously you don't need only protein. You want a mix of everything. Like you don't build a house with only bricks. You build it with some bricks, some glass for the windows, some this, some that. You need it to be balanced. So you need to get 1 gram protein per pound of body weight, like 0.3 to 0.35 or whatever grams of fat per pound of body weight, and then you just fill the rest of the calories with carbs. And when you're cutting like me, do not make the mistake of going below 0.3 grams of fat per pound of body weight. Like I was eating like 20 grams or probably less of fat at one point last cut I did, and I'm just gonna say it straight, man, I had some bad diarrhea. Like it was bad, so you need those fats, get them in, and don't just say, alright, I'm just gonna take all my fats out and replace all them with carbs so I have more energy. You're gonna feel like shit. Hormones are gonna tank, everything's gonna go out of whack. You're better off just staying disciplined, keeping it balanced, and just doing with whatever carbs your macros allow for. And yeah, what else is there to cover? Spreading your meals out during the day is a big thing. Honestly, I feel like any day that say I have 500 extra calories to put towards breakfast and a pre-workout meal or snack. So if I could skip breakfast, save all those 500 calories for before the workout, then, I could do that. Or I could 250 morning, 250 before the workout. I tend to feel better when I do that, because there's not as much food in me when I'm working out, so I'm not, like, feeling as full. My bad, guys. I got a call from someone that fucked up the voice recording, but, no, yeah, it's not like I'm gonna feel full on 500 calories, but, I feel like, feeling like shit for the whole first part of the day, like low blood sugar, and, because you don't got any calories in you, that fatigue kind of lingers around, even if you make up for it and eat 250 more calories before the lift. So keeping it balanced is super important. I like to have small meal breakfast, small meal before the workout, big meal at lunch, big meal at dinner. And I find that I feel the best for that. If the calories allow, I'll have, like, a little snack after dinner, a little fruit. Like tonight, I'm gonna have that, but yeah, that's about it. That's kind of about all I got for today's video. I know it's coming out a bit late. I was busy yesterday. I was supposed to get it out yesterday. But at the time you guys are seeing this, I'm getting it out on January 8th. This workout was on, like, January 6th. So I meant to get it out on the 7th, but turns out I'm just going to have to get it out today on the 8th at the time you guys are watching this. But tomorrow, should have some shorts and TikToks coming out, because I'm going to be hitting a chest and arms day. But yeah, video hopefully out Saturday, next one. So thanks for watching. If you made it up to this point and you watched the whole video, and peace out.